Welcome, Representative Nash. Welcome today to the committee. I would move your bill for you. As you're not a member of the committee, I'd move that House File 276 be laid over for possible inclusion in a future bill. Chair Nash, please introduce yourself for the record and tell us about your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I am Jim Nash, District 48A. Live on Lake Waconia, which is the second largest lake in the metro area, and we fish a lot. For any of you that would like to, you can come by and look at my iPad. It is, I think, like 900 fishing pictures. I fish all over the state. I fished on every major lake that we have, and I fish during the summer with a group of folks that provide fish for the Waconia Lions Wild Game Dinner, and they are called, self-called, the Old Guys Fishing Club, and I am a guest, so I'm not in that club. But what they tell me is, Jim, we've given at the office and have so for years and years and years. So these are folks who have been pillars of the community for years. There are Lions, they're former business owners, they are people who give generously. There's one, his name is Ron McDemus, and Ron does Take a Kid Fishing every year on Lake Waconia, where he himself buys fishing gear for kids. Ron just wants to not to be able to spend as much on his fishing licenses, Mr. Chair. So my bill, 276, would simply reduce it by a meager $10. And it's really not asking that much. And I thank Chair Hansen, or former Chair Hansen, or Lead Hansen, for speaking so kindly of my bill as being the more conservative and better alternative to the previous bill. I think what we have here, members, is a recognition that we as legislators get to change how fees are collected on things like this. And it's important, particularly for someone like myself and my friends as the Old Guys Fishing Club. They are great donors to the community, and I think would just love a small recognition that once you reach 65, that it's okay to collect a little bit less money from you than you do from people like myself or Chair Heinzman or Chair Hansen. So that's the gist of the bill. It does have a fiscal component to it, but I think, once again, it is a reasonable request for us to look at how do we collect money through licenses, and I buy mine. I buy, I think, pretty much every license you can buy, Mr. Chair. So with that, I'm happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, Representative Nash. And kind of the same drill as before, members, if Deputy Director Rivers would like to share a few thoughts, I will start there. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Mr. Chair, members, Pat Rivers, Deputy Director, Fish and Wildlife Division. Unlike the previous bill, House File 276 does not impact the sport fish restoration dollars that would come to Minnesota. So that's a good improvement, in my opinion. And secondly, the reimbursement from the general fund recognizes that angling is big business in Minnesota, whether it's filling your boat up with gas, staying at a resort, picking up bobbers and bait. You name it, it contributes to greater Minnesota and all of Minnesota's economy. So we appreciate that recognition. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Director. And again, if there's anybody here that would also like to testify, just providing that opportunity before we go to member questions. All right, seeing none. Members, are there any questions? Representative Gilman? Representative Gilman, you grabbed for your mic. So
Perhaps, Mr. Chair, Representative Gilman was going to ask me which lakes I fish in her district, and they will remain a mystery.
Lead Fisher, if you would like to.
Thank you, Chair Heitzman. Thank you, Representative Nash, for bringing the bill forward. It's great to have this conversation starting. I think it's something that we want to make sure that we're making it easier for our elderly population to be able to stay engaged in the sports going forward. And I appreciate the fact that we're looking at ways of how to offset the revenue, because we want to make sure the fund stays sustainable for the future, and it's had downward pressure. So I appreciate the creative way. Doesn't mean this is where it's going to end up, but I appreciate the discussion going and the creative ideas out there. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Lead Fisher. Any other questions, members? Absent questions, I did want to mention that there are a number of letters of support in your packet for House File 276. There's one from the Congressional Sportsman Foundation and Conservation Minnesota. You may be interested in taking a look at their thoughts on the bill. I thought that there certainly seems to be a good opportunity to, as we all seem to agree, start this conversation, and that's part of the reason we're hearing the bills today on this subject. Chair Nash, if you have any additional thoughts, we'll come back to you before I renew the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll just say again, we all know people who are avid anglers, and I would just say that a recognition of 65 being perhaps a better age than 90 is maybe a really good approach. Once again, those 65-year-olds will probably having grandkids that they may be introducing to angling for the very first time. And it's just a great recognition of the time that they have spent buying full price licenses. And you know, as somebody who has taught all of my kids to fish, it's something that I think that we want to really work on to make sure that we're creating that next generation of anglers, because beyond just being able to take advantage of the lakes here in the state of Minnesota, it is a huge business to our state. And if you've never been up to perhaps Leech Lake, Winnebagosh, Lake of the Woods, when you go on opening day, it is an amazing display of the economic engine that fishing is to our state. And I think that it's just a simple request that this bill is making to provide a little bit of relief for people who are at age 65. So with that, Mr. Chair, I do appreciate the time getting me into committee, and I look forward to working with any and all who may have questions, or as we try to figure out how does this airplane land. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Nash. And that being the end of the discussion, I will renew my motion that House File 276 be laid over. The bill is laid over.